On this episode of Ask Dan, we're going to talk about the Lumia 950, and is that camera still as good as anything by Android today? And what about Windows Core OS? Will we see its tablet features come to Windows 10 Pro? All that and more on this episode. Stay tuned. Will the tablet mode for Windows 10 Pro or other existing SKUs benefit from the new shells that Microsoft is developing? All right, so this is a really good question. It's in reference to Windows 10 Pro and Windows 10 Home, which you're using probably on your desktop or PC, and how that relates to, say, Windows Core OS. Now, one of the big complaints about Windows 10 Pro and Home has been the tablet experience. It's just not that good. I actually don't mind it too much, but I understand the criticism, especially when you compare it to what Windows 8 was like. And so, will we get a benefit from that? There's no clear evidence right now that's going to happen. Having said that, I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see some shell changes from Windows Core OS trickle down to Windows 10 Pro or maybe even Windows 10 Home. So maybe some of that stuff in tablet mode. But just remember, the problem with Windows 10 Home and Pro regarding shell and changes to it is the fact that it's so cumbersome and hard because the code is so old compared to what they're doing with Windows Core OS. I think they'd rather put their more concentration into Windows Core OS, which has more flexibility and they can adapt to new devices rather than focusing on the old stuff, which they can leave for desktop PCs and laptops. But we'll have to wait and see what Microsoft does, but I wouldn't really bet on that too much. I would instead count on new device experiences with Windows Core OS for the better tablet experience. What privacy features do you expect to be present in the new Microsoft Edge? For context here, there's questions regarding how Edge is right now on Android and iOS. If you've used it, you'll see there's built-in ad blocker in there now, as well as NewsGuard, which you can toggle on and off. There's also automatic translation built in. And so Microsoft's actually done quite a lot for the Edge browser, at least on Android and iOS, which is surprising considering it's not technically their own browser, but they have brought a lot of features to it. So will those features now trickle down to Anaheim, what's now known as the Chromium browser version that's coming to Windows 10? Microsoft hasn't really specified what features to expect in Anaheim, which will be out later this year, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if what you see in iOS and Android will be translated over to the desktop and PC. I think things like Ad Blocker Plus, NewsGuard, built-in translation, and taking those most commonly used extensions and building them right into the browser itself as a shortcut for users, I wouldn't be shocked at all if we see them do that, but we'll have to wait to see what they say at Build, if anything at all, regarding what consumer features we should expect for this browser, but it shouldn't be too much longer. Do you see Google or Apple giving Microsoft a run for their money in the future when it comes to gaming? All right, so it's no secret now that Google is getting into gaming specifically. They're going to be doing their own streaming service that uses their own technology to provide mobile gaming to users. Question is, will that compete with Microsoft at some level? I don't really think so. Microsoft is more on the Sony level for consoles and doing those big AAA titles that we expect, although Sony's still beating them there as well. But no, Microsoft in gaming is going to be a very interesting story, I think, mostly because of xCloud, which I think part of the story relates to. Now, Google has their own technology they'll be using, but Microsoft's going to be able to sell their technology to companies like Sony and Nintendo to license. Microsoft's also been pushing Xbox Live onto other platforms, so I wouldn't be surprised to see, say, Nintendo, iOS, and Android with Xbox Live support coming soon, which would undercut sort of what Google is trying to do here. That's not to say Google won't see some success, but we saw with NVIDIA Shield a couple years ago was an attempt to also do this, and it didn't really work out. And Steambox didn't really work out either, despite the success of Steam on desktop for PC. So this is actually a really tough game to get into. I don't blame Google trying to leverage their own technology here. They may have some success, but I don't think Microsoft should be too worried here. Is the camera on the Lumia 950 and 950 XL comparable to the Note 9 shooter or any other modern high-end smartphone? All right, I'm just answering this question because I think it's kind of funny that people are still using the Lumia 950, and I don't really blame you. It did have a lot good going for it, and that camera was a strong point. So the question is image quality in the 950 as good as what's out there today? I don't feel it is, personally. I think it also depends on how you're shooting. If you're just doing very still shots, say right now of the city behind us, the Lumia 950 actually would do very well, especially in this kind of scenery. And in that regard, actually it probably would compare well to sort of what the Pixel does and everything. But that's not how most people use the camera. What the biggest innovations in camera today have been, it's been the improvement over HDR, also the speed at which the camera works. And that's always been a sore point with the Lumias, was how slow the camera was, both for snapping the photo and processing. And you don't get that as much on Android anymore, or the iPhone. And so when it comes to, say, shooting your kids or small animals or low nighttime shots, Unfortunately, Android's going to absolutely blow away the Lumias these days. So it's not just about the still image quality, it's about everything else around that, the experience. And all that is absolutely blowing away where the Lumia 950 was in 2015. And that should be expected. There's really not much technology in 2015 we're using today that's better than what we have today. And that's no different here for the camera either. So if you're looking into getting a new camera that's better, I would still definitely jump to something like Android. The Samsung does very well, Huawei stuff does very well, even OnePlus, and of course the Pixel 3. How do you feel about Microsoft releasing products with seemingly no expectations of mass market success, specifically the Invoke, GLAS, and recently Surface headphones? I like this question a lot because it's actually kind of controversial. So one thing about Satya Nadella supposedly canceling everything and all your favorite stuff like Band and Windows Phone, we've always said that those things actually started under Ballmer. So he's only actually canceled things that came from the previous administration, if you will. And that's fine. He's trying to wipe the slate clean. He wants to start with stuff that's only going to be success. Meanwhile, things like Surface Studio have launched, HoloLens have launched, a bunch of new Surface categories have launched. So those all came under Satya Nadella, and those don't look to be being canceled. But the things you point out, like the Invoke and GLAS, and even the Surface headphones, don't feel like the kind of things that are going to catch on, especially that GLAS thermostat, which really haven't heard too much about. And same thing with the Invoke speaker, which it seems more of a test platform for Cortana instead of a mass market device. And no one has certainly released another version of that out there. So I wouldn't be surprised if those get canceled. I'm also not really sure what the purpose of those devices are. Are they supposed to be mass market? Are they more for research to get it out there and collect data and see where they can improve upon? So what are the expectations from Microsoft of those devices? I'm not really too sure. But it is an interesting thing to bring up because if those do get canceled, those do fall under Nadella, and that does speak volumes about why those products were launched in the first place. Something I'll try to find out at Build coming up in May, but good questions. We'll have to wait and find out though. All right, so that does it for this episode. Remember, if you have a question, use hashtag AskDanWindows on Twitter or leave me a comment below with your question there and I'll try to answer them. You can also send me an email at askdan@windowscentral.com. Otherwise, if you like this video, give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Take care, everyone. All right. What privacy features do you expect to be present in the new Microsoft Edge, like ad blocker or track blocker or inPrivate? Oh, that's too much. Okay. What privacy features do you expect to be present in the new Microsoft Edge?